led you to take action, a particular incident that you found troubling?
First thing, we want to prevent hurting the feelings of the Holocaust survivors. Don't forget that among us, there are still, thank God, many people who are living with us, and we have to be sensitive to their feelings. The second thing that we are facing a situation in which the daily dialogue in the Israeli society is really leading by using Nazi terminology and other expressions like this is diminishing the importance of the Holocaust. So we want to prevent it. The third thing, we want also to express our solidarity with the Jewish community, especially in Europe, that are experiencing right now hard time with all the anti-Semitic incidents, with the Nazi salute, with all these special incidents, terrible incidents around Jewish schools, around the around synagogues, etc., etc.
Mr. Ohayon, as I understand it, the bill calls for the idea that anyone who calls another person a Nazi in any context or uses Third Reich imagery could be subject to criminal prosecution. Critics of the bill argue that a law banning specific words and symbols isn't the right way to tackle the issue. They think education and public discussion is a more appropriate and effective response. Tell me about your response to that. Why isn't education sufficient?
I think they are right in some way. Of course they are right. I don't think that only legislation is enough. It's a combination, legislation and education. They have to go together. I don't think that the idea just to pass the law and that's it. No, we have to continue with the education. The law will make sure that people will stop using this kind of terminology, hurting the feeling of the Holocaust survivors, diminishing the whole idea of the whole issue of the Holocaust, and probably will be the trigger, will be for discussions, for lessons, for educational programs at the school to start to learn to be aware of the idea of the whole Holocaust issue and also this phenomena of anti-Semitism that now we are facing, especially in Europe.
Let me ask you, you've had parliamentary support, I know that, but there's also been some strong criticism. As your Attorney General himself has written, is it proper in a democratic country to ban an entire world of images from the public discourse to protect people's feelings?
Yes, it's not only to protect the feeling. I think it's not only to protect. I think we have to prevent all these kinds of dialogue. The Holocaust didn't start, in one day. They start with all these being prejudice and then delegitimation and then discrimination, etc., etc. If you don't start all these Nazi symbols, you end up by also some kind of discrimination. Who knows what's going to be the end? So you have to stop it. Freedom of speech is not something that's unlimited.
Mr. Ohayon, how would it work tell me how it would work in a cultural context, like in art or entertainment? It's been pointed out that a play like The Producers or a Seinfeld episode like The Soup Nazi would be breaching the law.
Anything that has to do, no, we are not talking about that. Anything that has to do with what we call educational programs, including our plays and movies, etc., etc. Unless you are really very, very, you want to attack people and to try to give, by your expression, saying that they are acting exactly like Nazi and they have the same kind of activities like the Nazi did, then you could be blamed. But we don't want to prevent all these cultural events and all cultural production, etc., that will maybe through this we can also learn about it. And if we open a discussion, we can open a discussion as long as we know that we can share the same goal that we want to prevent, that will never have another time in which we are going to face some kind of another Holocaust for this.
Shimon Ohayon, I thank you very much for this today.
Okay, thank you.
That's Shimon Ohayon, a member of the Israeli parliament. He's introduced a bill that would make it a crime to use the word Nazi or associated language and imagery for anything other than education or documentation, the bill says. We reached him in Tel Aviv, Israel. I want to bring in another voice now. This is Alison Kaplan-Sommer. She's a journalist for the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, and she's been following this story. She's also on the line from Tel Aviv. Hello, Alison.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. I know you've been listening in on my conversation with Shimon Ohayon. What about the reaction in Israel? Shimon Ohayon said that despite vocal critics, the bill has strong popular support. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, and the criticism is coming in all different forms. A lot of people are making fun of it and ridiculing it. There's a lot of memes going around the internet again that the soup Nazi will be illegal and springtime for Hitler won't be able to be shown. Yeah, a lot of it is it's being accused as political grandstanding, as a bill being brought up in order to force this discussion rather than something that's going to be actually seriously pursued. And I think that in a time that when Israelis feel that on many levels they're forced to give up, they're forced to compromise on many aspects of the democratic society in order to protect their security, that the aspects of democracy that they can cling to, the amount of free speech that they can point to, I think that they want to try as hard as possible to maintain as much democracy as they possibly can, even living in a very embattled region in a very tense situation.
Okay, but to pick up on what Mr. Ohayon was saying and those who advocate for this bill, I mean, I guess there is a context around this, the increasing use of Nazi terminology and symbols. I understand it's also become common slang among young people, especially to use the Hebrew word Shoah, a word normally reserved for the Holocaust, to refer to now an everyday disaster like a breakup, or even according to the New York Times, a messy kitchen. Do you find that troubling?
As an exaggerated term, first of all, let me point out that Israel's founding fathers like to throw around the word Nazi and Hitler. Ben-Gurion wrote that Ben-Gurion, the founding father of Israel, the first prime minister, called his main political rival Menachem Begin a Hitlerist type, and said that he ever came to power, he would replace the army and police headquarters with his goons and rule as Hitler did in Germany. Begin, for his part, liked to call Ben-Gurion a Nazi, and of course there have been many Holocaust references when being referred to Israel's enemies from the Arab neighbors, a lot of Hitler references that way. So let it not be said that even from Israel, on both sides of the political spectrum, right or left, that the expression and the symbolism has been used to evoke it. In terms of common usage, what you're referring to, young people, etc., it's sort of a natural generational evolution that a generation that didn't experience it personally and is having less and less contact with people who experience personally feel less of a taboo against using it again as a shocking, exaggerating expression.
Let me ask you about what those who oppose the bill are most concerned about. I mean, I know there's jokes being made about it, but your newspaper, Haaretz, has come out in an editorial against the bill saying that this is part of the government's efforts to stifle criticism, and the editorial also argues that the legislation, I'm quoting, infringes on freedom of expression and has no place in a democratic country. Do you fear a real chill when it comes to freedom of expression as exemplified with this bill?
It's people fear it as the first step in a slippery slope, and they also see it right now being used as a particularist political weapon. Interestingly, back in 1995 with the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, when people were talking about language that caused incitement, that caused people to take violent actions, including the assassination of the prime minister, people held up pictures of Rabin that were dressed as a Nazi that were distributed at the time of people who objected to the peace process. And when settlers have been evacuated from settlements, they have called soldiers Nazis. So in previous eras, it was used by the right against the left or against the government. But more recently, the people who have been using the Nazis expressions has been two main groups, and that is the left, accusing the government and accusing the right of Nazi-like racist treatment of Palestinians, and most recently, a very hot issue right now is the issue of African migrants and asylum seekers, which some right-wing politicians have spoken about in terms that are called mildly racist, and often the rhetoric is raised and they're compared to the Nazis